Let's talk about the U.S. soccer landscape, because on our way into the studio today, it done all changed.
We got a bombshell article from Paul Tenorio of The Athletic.
Yeah.
Boom, with about USL shaking things up a little bit.
Yeah, so there was a lot of conversation about how USL can, make themselves more known on the US market, what they could do differently. And no one's bingo card had become another top flight division. And that's exactly what they're doing. So this is for the 26-27 year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's what they're aiming for. But the headline just says, "Move over, Major League Soccer. A rival top flight men's league is coming to the US."
Yeah,
bro.
and you really love this telestrator thing.
Yeah, we got a new telestrator, bro.
All right, that's besides the point. Let's talk USL Championship becoming the next top flight. This is, I think, massive news, and you not so much.
Yeah, I'm not. This is a little bit
You're
of
nonplussed.
I'm what?
You've never heard that before?
I'm nonplussed.
Nonplussed. I don't know if I used that correctly, Carter. If you can confirm that. Nonplussed. If you could define that for us, Carter, that'd be great.
Yikes.
You are so nervous. Anytime I use the word, you don't think I know.
I'm not nervous. It's just
Carter?
It's one of those things where...
So dictionary.com says it's when you're surprised and confused so much that you are unsure how to react.
Well, I'm not unsure how to react. There's something about you using the word that makes me want to bully you. That's kind of what I was thinking.
Also, it makes me want to bully myself because I used it incorrectly, which makes me so much more comfortable.
No, this is...
But what are your thoughts on USL becoming a rival to MLS as far as Division 1?
We've already experienced this with the USL Super League. We do have another Division 1 women's league in the country.
But in the men's... it's a different situation.
It is different. I'm just saying...
The women's game is in a different spot than the men's
It's now
league.
blowing my mind the way that this is something that they would attempt. Now, the questions are, will MLS do things to not let them follow through with this? Like, are they going to be hindered in some way by not just MLS, but just
you can make the argument that that's already happening without them being in the top division, right? I think Indianapolis is a good example. Hold on, let me just explain. Indy 11 has great fan base. They get a lot of numbers out. The atmosphere is wonderful. The club seems to be doing very well. They want to move into a more professional. The Indianapolis market is ripe for an MLS team.
Yeah.
They wanted to be the ones to move to MLS, as many other teams did. FC Cincinnati probably, I think, being the most recent one, if I'm not mistaken. Orlando obviously did it as well. And then all of a sudden, MLS was like, hey, we think Indy's a great market, and here's a bunch of owners that want to start a team, and it's got nothing to do with Indy 11.
Right.
So essentially burying Indy 11, unless you do something like this.
Well, yeah, and so the difference there would be getting MLS circumventing a bid, an MLS bid, is different to me than USL going for a Division 1 sanction, which is now you're working with US Soccer and making the case that this is something that you want to do. So that is, I think in that case, the MLS circumventing is a little bit more above my pay grade. It's at a higher level of and again, all alleged. I'm not saying that this is something they're going to try to stop, but after reading the article, first from reading the headline, I'm like, it's kind of stupid. What they're gonna do this for? Like,
this is the part of me that thought
in my mind.
This is why I thought. This is what I thought nonplus meant. I thought you were saying like, bro, this is a waste of all of our time. That's kind of the tone you took when we talked about this.
So my initial, I think I did feel that it's a little bit like kind of a waste of time because it feels like a thing that it's not really gonna happen. So it's like I'll believe it when I see it, but. I do think, and after reading the article, that there are valid points in that, do I think another Division 1 on the men's side can work? Maybe. My main thing says no, just because there are so many, like the branding of MLS and how people think of American soccer on the men's side is like, yes, MLS, that is our main league, and they treat it like the way we see sort of other sports, and nobody's like really like hyped up about CFL or XFL or whatever. So, but the argument, and before I finish my point, let's just do pro rel. MLS has whatever the 30 teams. Maybe they can split it. Maybe go to 40 and 20 and 20, and then MLS 1, MLS 2, and then USL championship. And that is like in my brain. I'm like, I could wrap my head around that. That seems like it could work. Maybe why can't USL just work with MLS? Why can't they just say like, you're gonna be Division 1 and I'm gonna be Division 2, and Division 2, yes, will make less money than Division 1, but we will have a sustainable soccer landscape that we can pass on to the next generation. Like that is my dream to happen, and that is not what this is saying. This is basically saying, we're gonna make another Division 1 and we're gonna do pro rel there because we already have USL Championship and League 1 and League 2.
It says it's the plans for the future.
Yes,
right.
Exactly.
It's not there yet, and from conversations I've had with folks at USL, it seems like there's some owners that are like, oh, I don't know. So there's a couple of things that are hindering this. I think there's 3 really important points in this move that I think is worth noting. Right. One in particular is that there are tons of markets that MLS just will not be able to serve, right? The idea that there's only a few multi-club cities doesn't make a lot of sense for me. And I know Europe is a completely different market than the US where, football/soccer is an obsession. It's a religion, yada, yada, whatever cliche you want to put on it. It's just so much more important part of daily life in European cities than it is in America. So I understand we're talking about something different, but that's not necessarily to say that can't be the case here in the future, right? Markets build. So in particular, what I think is important is we have 330 million people in this country. That is an overwhelming amount of potential market, right? In order to do that with only serving 30 to 35, let's say, or 34 cities, you're not really getting the majority of people. You're just not. So you need these other divisions and you need other leagues and you need, just like baseball has AAA and AA and single A. And some of those teams do very well because if you live in the middle of, Wisconsin, or if you live in the middle of Pennsylvania and not in a major city, there's a chance that you're probably not going to be able to drive all the way, or you're not going to be able to bring your family to a major league team. So you could go see the Wilkes-Barre Wombats. I don't even know if I pronounced that city correctly. Wilkes-Barre, Wilkes-Barre, Wombats, or whatever they are, the Thunder, maybe you could go see that, and that's a night out and you get to have enjoy. Why doesn't soccer have that? Soccer should have that. So, and I know those exist, but what's stopping them from going to top flight, to me, really, it's just do you have this many people in your city? Do you have this TV contract? Do you have the market share that you need? Do you have all those things that denote you as a top flight? There's probably an argument to be had about CONCACAF Champions Cup and US Open Cup, bids, right, for the winner, because now you have multiple first divisions. So there's probably an argument there. But for the most part, number one, markets that are never going to be served by MLS. Number two, development of players. Now you're given so much more incentive for these teams to continue to develop players. We've seen it with Louisville City, which will probably be one of the teams that goes up to the top division in USL. Regardless, I don't know what they're going to call it, but whatever, we'll call it the USL Top Flight. Mm-hmm. The teams that go up there, Louisville is definitely going to be one of them. And they've got Josh Winder, Elijah Winder, who just moved to LA Galaxy. There's clearly the ability to find these gems and to develop them into players that can potentially help the U.S. national team. We're going to do that at a much higher rate now, right? Because these teams will essentially be making more money, the sponsorship money will grow because it's top flight. There's more of that. The third and the most important is that pro rel that you were talking about. This opens the door for that to become a reality. And while I don't think that's the golden bullet, I don't think that's what solves all of U.S. soccer's issues, just the fact that that becomes a part of the sports landscape in America, I don't think we'll ever see it in baseball. I don't think we'll ever see it in NFL. I don't think we'll ever see it in NBA. But there's no reason why we don't have that in soccer. In some aspect.
I agree.
I've always thought the women's league would be so much more well-suited to do it first because of the amount of the amount of marketing opportunity that goes to them, the amount of eyes and ears that suddenly go to that. All these American sports news shows, having to explain to their audience what this means is them talking about you. This is it's a boost button for your league.
Sure.
If the women's sport doesn't want to do it, that's fine. If USL's first to do it, that is this should be a fear of MLS. This should be something that MLS fears because nothing's to say, right? San Diego paid $500 million for their team. $500 million. USL is not a single entity. You own your own team. You do your own thing. There's no salary caps. You do whatever you think as a business person you want to do, you do. It's very much more American in that sense, right? MLS, everyone shared that 500 million, right? Very quickly, those valuations can drop. Very quickly, you're running out of markets that can handle a $500 million entry fee.
Sure.
So there's a cap. There's so much more space. London has 6 Premier League clubs, 20 million people. 6 clubs. Yes, it's a different market for the sport, but we got 330 million people. There's probably a lot of soccer fans.
Right, but you mentioned just Premier League club, but how many clubs does London have?
30, probably.
Maybe 100.
Well, yeah, but professional.
I'm just saying, that is why I think the was it Paul McDonough? Who I believe is he the president of USL?
I think he's the CEO, if I'm not mistaken.
But he said, I mean, that kind of what is the example that he makes. Like, essentially, the country is just too big. Our country is too big to only have 30 teams. Again, just like an NFL franchises and stuff like that. Like the sport of soccer is just so inherently different than those other sports that it lends it can only grow when more people have access to it, more inspiration, more again, and the promotion relegation is it a financial risk for owners? Of course it is, but is it?
I argue that if you are behind a paywall, if you're not trying to go with traditional television revenue, there is no loss of income.
Well, and that's a whole. We can have the business sort of conversation, but in general, the promotion relegation around it, the story around it, provides so much excitement. You hear me talking about Everton and possibly getting relegated, but that possible relegation leads me to be more emotionally attached to the game.
Every goal means more. We're not reinventing the wheel here.
Yeah, so it's just like but outside of that, when you think bigger, that emotional connection leads to more kids playing the game, more involvement, more participation, more.
So now you're pro this move.
It's this particular move of just creating a competitive Division 1. I'm not pro it, but I am pro what it could possibly lead to, which is a promotion relegation in this country. And if they can do it, yes, they will put some pressure on MLS. It will force MLS to get involved. Like I just said, MLS 1, MLS 2, and then USL under it. Why can't that be the case? That is my hope. Maybe that's what that can lead to. I don't care if it's major, call it whatever. I just want, I think we can do it. I like what we have. And I think, this is a whole longer conversation, but I do think what Major League Soccer has done and given a foundation for the sport, I think it's fantastic.
It helped it survive
because there was nothing before 1996 or indoor, and it was just like and NASL and
But when 96 came, there was nothing.
There was literally nothing. We've spoken to guys that were professional soccer players that played indoors, and they had no other outlet to play professionally in this country.
They were playing like money games on the weekends.
So it's fantastic what it has done. But yes, they have created somewhat of a monopoly on the sport. And that's not true to the essence of what this sport is. To have one group deciding how everything goes and nobody else being able to be allowed into the club. And that's what I'm hoping changes at some point.
Dude, because you started out so negative and now look at you, bro.